I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. I'll let him work on you a little bit there. Clark County Board of Education, March 19th, 2019, regular meeting. At this time, I want to welcome everyone for being here. I will ask that, if you are here to speak or make a comment, please make sure that you do sign in the back to make sure that we can recognize you. At this time, I ask you to stand for a moment of silence. And now the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to give you just a second down there and see if Chris can come up with a solution right here.
The elder.
I think it's down there on that end. Seems like it always happens on that end. All right, this time, let's do a review of the agenda. If anybody has any amendments or anything they may like to add to that, this time we can do it as long as it fits within the parameters the board members want to do that. I do have one amendment on item 15. I would like for that to say discussion of and consider approval of setting the closing day for Clark County schools and the George Rogers Clark High School graduation date. Need to see if I have agreement with two other members at least, I'm assuming. I take. Good? I'm good.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're good there with that. Any other additions or amendments to the agenda?
I'd like to make an addition to the agenda to consider approval for the purpose to change existing logo on football field from GRC to Cardinal mascot, as well as to add the letters GRC between the 20 and 30 yard line on each side of the field with amount not to exceed $9,500.
I can concur with that. Other members?
I concur.
Okay, got that. I'm going to add that as 14A to be right after when we speak about the gymnasium.
I've got two items for consideration.
Okay.
The first one is to consider, discuss a mechanism for soliciting and managing proposals for the athletic sponsorships, including but not limited to naming rights, equipment, and scoreboards.
Okay, we have an amendment proposal on here. Any agreements with that? Since we seem to have disagreements, I'll ask for just a hand vote right there. Those that agree with it, please raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. Okay. Here's the next amendment.
Yes, sir. Consider revision of policy 01.45.
Okay, do we have any concurring on that? So we do have one for it, Mr. Heisel. Those for it, signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. The motion does not take it on. At this time, we'll consider adoption of the agenda with the additions and corrections. Or additions and amendments, I should say.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
We have a motion by Mr. Tonleby.
Second.
Have a second.
Sorry.
by Ms. Richards. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Item 3, approval of the minutes for the February 19, 2019 regular meeting and the March 12, 2019 special meeting.
We do those separate because I came in at the very end of the March one.
I don't think it makes a difference right there. I
Okay.
think we're good with that.
Okay.
We're good. Either way, this is just a matter of what happened at those meetings. And
Okay.
so if you're confident Mr. Christie took good notes, Arlene,
More confident.
then
That's fine.
you're more than fine to vote for both of those. If there's not any corrections, then I'll ask for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the
Motion by-
February 19th and March 12th meeting.
Okay, motion by Ms. Richardson,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Talby. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Before we do get on, I know we don't have any recognitions on here tonight, but again, I do want to recognize our girls basketball team for the regional championship and also for their quarterfinal finish in the state tournament. I think we were well represented by a great group of young women and their coaching staff with that. And I'm sure that in the future we'll do something to
Yes.
recognize them again, but I just hate for that to go by and us not mention those. At this time, we'll take public comments, and I do have the sheet out. Has everyone signed up that would like to sign up? Looks like we have 4 people on here. Looks like 2 of them are going to be talking about item 14. I'm assuming, is it Ms. Suter? I guess this is about the reading program with this. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and start with you if you don't mind. Is that okay? And you go first and just try to leave our comments at right around 3 minutes if we could. And then you come up to here. And I do want to advise everyone, it's usually never a problem, just make sure that, you know, we do not talk about personnel or anything when we are doing public comments. But thank you and welcome.
What do you mean don't talk about personnel?
Well, nothing derogatory to about personnel, I mean, we can't really do individual personnel. Probably not coming up, but, you know, okay.
I mean, I want y'all to meet Brooklyn,
Okay.
my daughter. She's
Okay.
in 4th grade,
All right,
at Strode Station. She has a wonderful teacher, Miss Browning, and Miss Costin is her RTI teacher. She has dyslexia, and she would like to read her speech that she had to do for 4-H. And she did it on dyslexia, and she would also like y'all to have see a sample of her handwriting, a 4th grader.
okay.
And on the back, I wrote what this is supposed to say. So, and I do know that I talked to Miss Considine, and she had said that the Kentucky bill, you know, y'all don't have to do anything until June 30th, and it's only kindergarten through 3rd. And I would just like to see y'all kindergarten through 12th for dyslexia. They need intervention. And you can see this with a 4th grader. She's had intervention in other states. She's getting it now through a private tutor. We are considering switching to a private school because, I mean, even Calvary has someone certified in dyslexia. But there's no one in Clark County. And I have been told it's due to funds. We're spending a lot of money on that high school. And I don't mean to be ugly about it because I believe in athletics, I believe in the schools. But these children need to read. And it does cost money for them to read. And I do understand it's a struggle too for the school systems. But she wants to be heard.
Of course, step right up here, go ahead. That's all right.
It's okay. Go ahead.
When I read, I don't always understand what I'm reading. I also don't read words correctly. I will leave words that and add words and substitute words that mean the same thing, but do not look at all similar. For example, big for large. When I write, I misspell most words unless I ask someone how to spell it. Math has become harder this year in fourth grade, especially for public. My difficulties with reading, writing, spelling, and math are because I have dyslexia. Dyslexia is a specific learning disorder that, and I will educate you about it. Dyslexia is a brain condition caused by the different wirings of the brain that affects 1 in 5 people. It usually runs in my family. My dad is dyslexic too. There is no cure for dyslexia, people who have dyslexia, but there is hope. People with dyslexia need specific evidence-based instructions to learn. The most widely used evidence-based instruction is the Olin-Gillingham approach. Dyslexia is not guessed before some letters make people deep. It is so much more than guessed before some letters. It is leaving out sounds, adding sounds, voicing sounds, confusing similar words. It is difficulties with phonics and reading and comprehension. It is difficulties with reading, spelling, and writing, and it can create difficulties in math too. Dyslexia does not mean someone is not smart or cannot learn. Kids with dyslexia are just as smart as kids who do not have dyslexia. Many people have dyslexia and have gone on to successful careers. There is a long list of actors, doctors, business leaders, and elected officials who are dyslexic. Albert Einstein was considered to be dyslexic. And look at how brilliant he was. My dad's very smart too. He's the big boss in his world. All through dyslexia makes reading, writing, spelling, and math hard for most people. With dyslexia have gifts in the air controlled by the right side of the brain. The right side controls art skills, sports skills, music ability, mechanical ability, people skills, 3D visual skills, vivid imagination, creative thinking, curiosity. Dyslexia is a long life specific learning disorder that can improve with the correct instruction and support. Dyslexia can become good readers. Dyslexia affects like people. Dyslexia is all smart and has strengths in many areas. Having dyslexia is hard, but I will not let dyslexia stop me from learning. I do extra work on my computer and iPad, and I also have to help me out with books on my needs.
I don't know what you were scared of.
Thank
Very
y'all.
good job.
I will tell you that since receiving your email, I have asked Mr. Christie to at least provide all board members with what our protocol is when we go about learning disabilities and what we need to do. And I think he has got some things together that I think he wants to meet with you as well to talk about some of the things that we can do and try to support every student that we can.
Thank you.
We've got some other tools that I'd like to talk to you about too. If you would just call here at the office and we'll set up a time that's convenient for you to come in and maybe meet with you some of the talk about.
Okay, definitely. Thank y'all so much.
Brooklyn, great job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Heather Pinchot.
That's a big act for fall.
That's pretty strong right there.
That's pretty strong one. I just want to take a moment to express my thoughts and concerns regarding a Facebook poll I saw yesterday referencing the design of our gym floor. This is in no way a criticism or judgment of the artist or artwork presented in the poll. The student is clearly very talented and I appreciate his or her gift. As you all probably know by now, Mr. Scott Heisel posted an unscientific and confusing poll to his school board Facebook page. This poll was requesting votes among 4 potential designs, 2 separate polls with 2 different options per poll. 2 of the designs included our current Cardinal mascot and GRC, while the other had 2 designs that were artwork from a current student. I immediately thought of your 5 basic questions: who, what, when, where, and why. Who approved this poll and knew about it ahead of time? What was the purpose of bringing up the design for discussion when most of us that fought so hard for the sports complex and have followed closely the progress believed this decision had already been made? When did this all come about, the proposal of a new floor? When did the board decide to open the discussion up for public vote? Where are we headed now if we have a board member going rogue and starting polls with unapproved designs and that could potentially cause delay in our progress? Why, this is my big one, would we ever consider a new logo or a new design that would either, one, compromise the consistency and overall aesthetics of our facility, or cost us an exorbitant amount of money to change our logo throughout the facility, including gear, uniforms, spiritware, and many other items? I asked Mr. Heisel some of these questions in the comments section of the poll yesterday. He did respond, but I would not consider it an answer. He never acknowledged my concern regarding what he would propose regarding our current logo or design throughout the facility and on uniforms. I don't want this to go unaddressed or without the board understanding where some of us stand. My opinion is that the poll was unnecessary and out of line. Any design other than our current Cardinal mascot would be irresponsible and extremely costly for our district. We need to stay on task, move forward as planned, and without delays or distractions. If at any time you consider to use an alternative design, please keep the overall aesthetic of the facility in mind. Also, I would request that you open the potential for a student design up to all of our students. We may have other talented artists that would like to be considered. If given to the public for vote, it should be done in an effective, professional, and accurate polling format after the board has approved the process and potential designs. I recommend we find a way to honor this artist and others. We have all had classmates with God-given talents. I'm a huge fan of finding a way to keep them as a part of GRC history. I will never forget the talents of my own classmate, Sean Rose. He was an incredible artist. I still have my senior sweatshirt that he designed and we used as a fundraiser. We also used his and other students' art for the cover of yearbooks, graduation programs, and many more items. We have an opportunity here to allow the students to submit their art for many types of fundraisers and other types of items, new or old, without placing it on the gymnasium floor. Thank you.
This time, Nick Honcho, is that right? Honcho, thank you.
Hi. So I'm actually the designer of the logo she was talking about. So yeah, I'm here to talk about why it should be used because I think it should be personal. But first, I agree with the poll that was posted to Facebook. I think it's a good idea to get the community involved because it's a community place for the community to gather. So, but first, I think a big reason for my logo to be used is because numerous administrators, coaches, athletes at GRC are already using my logo on t-shirts or graphic designs, or either it's popping up on, like, the girls basketball team had it on their warm-ups, like their sweatsuits. And then it's also on t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts in the Cardinal store at GRC. The ag department runs it there. So I think if we're taking the school's voice, the school seems to be speaking towards my logo already. Additionally, my logo it's unique. So whenever you look up like a typical Cardinal logo, like an example would be Louisville or Illinois State. They're very similar to the Cardinal logo that's being proposed as is. Not my logo, but the current logo, I guess. Like they're commonly all facing rightwards or facing one direction. It's a side profile. And then they also typically have like a teethy type grin. An example of that is Louisville's with the teeth. And yeah, so I think my logo, it's the front-facing Cardinal logo. It's just very unique, which GRC is a unique school, so I think we deserve a unique logo that sets us apart from other schools as well. And then a big reason I think it should be used is because students deserve a voice in this too. Students are the ones going to be playing on it. Students are going to be the ones cheering on the teams and the student sections, and students, I believe, should be the ones who design the court. So if there's a way to get the students' voice on that, then I think that's a big deal. But yeah, that should be it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dick. You're a talented young man, too. Very good. Okay, any other public comments? I know I don't have any other signs up, so I just want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Okay. Okay, our next item, item number 4. Consider approval and second reading of 2019-2020 school calendar committee proposals. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation from administrators and other folks that I've spoken with is it's pretty much option 2 that we talked about first. That's the one with the break, the fall break on Friday and Monday.
Okay, comments or discussion from board members?
Everything else was the same on those, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think President's Day.
President's Day.
President's Day was
Be used or not to be used.
used or not, so.
I have a comment. We had, I believe, wording on the current calendar that says that inclement weather days would be made up in sequential order following the last day of school. The board will review makeup days if there were to be more than 10 inclement weather days. Is there an objection to including that wording?
That would be the board's. I didn't go to the administration with that wording because that wasn't part of on the calendars, the options that we looked at. It lists, I think, and I don't have a copy of it in front of it, it listed 5 or 7 days, lists 7 days, I think, at the calendar as makeup days on each of those. It's labeled as makeup days.
7 days.
7 days, yeah.
I personally felt that at least the first sentence would be useful for members of the public so they know how we would be addressing inclement weather days.
And I think that the feeling of the administrators was that when you mark those 7 days as makeup days, that's pretty much the assumption that those are going to be the makeup days.
Yes, that's correct. I was on that calendar committee, and that's exactly our thoughts.
Other comments
Any
or?
discussion of that in the calendar committee of adding that?
Adding the wording?
Mhm.
No.
Okay.
If not, I would consider a motion on this item.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to adopt option 2 with the school calendar for 2019-2020.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Richardson. We have a
Second.
second. We have a second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item 5, consider discussion and approval to extend bond of depository 1 year or bid banking services for a 2-year period. Mr. Christie?
Recommendation is to extend the bond depository for 1 year of the bid banking services for a 2-year period. If you have any questions, I can defer to Ms. Ellis, who's here tonight, that can help maybe answer any more technical questions that you might have about it. This is something that's allowed to do. If you're looking out at that next year and there's no increases in costs or nothing that would cost the board any money, you can extend those. And we do have substantial amounts of money already invested in this bank right now with all of our construction going on, and it would mean a lot of movement of construction money and a lot of funds right now. So it's our recommendation to leave it another year before we look at re-advertising.
Questions, comments, discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item 5 as listed.
Got a motion by Mr. Colby,
Second.
second by Mr. Eisner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Item number 6, consider approval to adopt the new procedure 04.312AP.2 fundraising via crowdfunding websites. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation is to adopt the new procedure. This is a procedure. We've looked at other districts. Currently in Clark County Schools, we do not have a policy or a procedure for this, which means teachers, staff members, anyone in the school can openly go out on the social media and start GoFundMe type pages. And in those pages, those checks can be made out to individual teachers. They can be made out to the school. There's no stipulations on that. This procedure does give direction to that, and it gives a procedure in place that they must follow. Most of important, I think, is the fact that it must go through a principal, and then this allows us to know what fundraisers are going on in school, and the principals and administrators in those buildings have some control of the number of those fundraisers. As it is, without a policy or a procedure, there are no limitations to how many of those could be going on. This procedure sets guidelines that gives direction to administrators to control those. There's many things in there you saw in the procedure. It's directives as to how the checks are made out, who they're got to be made out to the school, all those kinds of things. It's a safety procedure, and it also gives our district administration control of, or a little better idea of what's going on as far as funding sources.
This is KSBA recommendation.
This is a KSBA recommendation, or a KSBA procedure.
Procedure.
Yes.
So we don't need 2 readings on that. It just
No,
be
not on
procedure.
procedure.
Okay. Questions, comments, discussion?
I know I've asked this before, I just want to make sure. This is mainly for cash fundraising
Yes.
events?
Yes.
And it does not affect the booster organizations? Will they fundraise for, for certain things, okay.
My comment is, first, I think it's a really good idea that y'all's have added this procedure in here. It's certainly was needed to fill that gap there. Great idea. I spent some time looking at the procedure wording on some other districts, and I believe I shared that with you, Mr. Christie. Governa Schools has about 6 paragraphs that I think would be useful additions to our procedure. They also have a form for people to fill out that I think would be useful. Murray has some restricted actions. There's 6 restricted actions that I think will be helpful to add to ours. And on the other thing that I would note on, the one that's included in our packet, I think there's a typo, some additional wording there under equipment that doesn't belong. And I'd be happy to read those details if you'd like for me to go into that. That level of detail, certainly if there's no other board support, I won't waste anyone's time with reading those suggestions.
Have you talked to Mr. Christie regarding these? And this is still your recommendation, the way you've got it here?
Yes, but, because this comes from KSBA, it doesn't mean that as we get into this, if we do find something else, that we can amend it and add to the procedure.
Okay.
But at this point, I think this is a good jumping on point for us at this point. I'll look at those. I didn't see the copies of the exact policies, and I'll be honest, I didn't go to the other school websites and look up theirs. In the email, I didn't see those in the email that I got.
Well, you know I sent you several, so it's easy to get confused. So if you don't mind, then how about this is
I certainly want to, you can point if there's a typo, we need to fix that. In the policy we do have that we are looking at here.
Well, I think under Director of Technology, there was an included reference to Henderson County Schools, and I think there's good people in the technology department there, but I don't think we need to run our stuff past there.
No. Under.
It's in.
Yes.
I'm in blue. Well, if you don't mind then, since this doesn't require multiple readings, and again, I think it's a great start, I'll resend these to you and make sure I've got them in a clear form. And if you all look at them and say, this might be useful to add somewhere into these, we can look at it at a future time. That sound like a pretty reasonable approach?
That's fair.
Okay, thanks.
Other board member comments or inquiries? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the proposed, if we're looking at it correctly, procedure 04.312 AP.2 with striking the wording after Director of Technology that begins with refer and ends with 382.
I'm going to ask for a clarification. I'm not
That's the
sure.
section. He's referring to the website that. on
That's the removal of the Henderson County
Yes.
reference.
Yes.
I'm going to say that Henderson County was the last one to adopt this policy from KSBA. That they sent us their.
I mean, we're adopting the policy, right? We're not adopting
No.
Henderson County's policy. It's, I mean, it's the
This
actual
is just,
policy
if
for.
there's a question, you referred to the technology support website, and it should be our website and not Henderson County's website.
Oh, okay.
But that would be, I mean,
We'll fix that.
right. So I mean, all we need to do is just have the number in there, the 04.312 AP.2. That takes care of all.
The procedure does not change.
The procedure does not change. So I guess I'll ask, do you want to amend what you said, or do you want to let it stand? Yes.
Perhaps I didn't describe it correctly. I was proposing what was in our packet with removing the reference to refer to the policy on the technology support website, Henderson County Schools, because I have no idea what all this ID 409, so I thought at this point in time that was not applicable to us. But the rest of what was proposed in our packet is what I'm suggesting. So just simply what was proposed in the packet minus the wording that starts at refer to and ends with the ID 907382. And if it's something that's needed and we can determine what those numbers are, again, in the subsequent adjustment, we could add that back there.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Heisel,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Talby. All those in favor say aye. All right, item number 7, consider approval of the revision of procedure 09.33 AB.2 Booster Support Club Agreement. Mr. Christie.
Recommend approval of this procedure. Again, it's a KSBA recommendation. Basically, all this is, the only change that you'll see in this policy is for booster organizations. In the past, we've had a hard set date for them to report to us, their officers and everyone in their organization, and that date was August the 1st, which is an unrealistic number we found because a lot of the booster organizations don't start their organizations until later in the year. So what this procedure does is it merely changes it to state that 30 days after the organizational meeting or 30 days after, within 30 days of their first transaction of business, they must report the officers to us. That's the only change, and it doesn't change the procedures, it just changes the reporting date of their officers of their organization.
Remember, questions, discussion?
Mr. Christie, I think it also adds the word support. after
Well, booster
and I-
support and
just to clean up on wording.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I jumped in.
That was it, where it did just say booster, it now says booster/support group.
Other discussion?
Which could take in your PTA, PTOs.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to consider approval of the revision of procedure 09.33 AP.2 Booster Support Club Agreement.
Motion by Mr. Talby, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 8, consider approval of the revision of policy 04.312 school activity funds. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation of this, adoption of this policy is, again, it's a policy written by KSBA. This is the policy that adopts the procedure that you just passed on the first one about the crowdfunding. It just adds that portion of the procedure into the policy. And that's the only change to that policy. And this would require two
Require two
readings. This is a
readings.
policy change, so this would be considered a first reading tonight, and it would be on the next agenda for second reading. But that was the only change to the policy, was the addition of the AP point
It's just the
two.
policy that goes with the procedure. Any questions or comments from board members? Not, I'll entertain a motion. I think we need to move that it be approved, the first reading of the revision, the way it should be, the motion.
I'll make a motion to consider the first reading approval for the revision of policy 04.312, school activity funds.
Do we have a motion by Ms. Richardson? We have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heisel. All those in favor say aye. Item number 9, consider approval of the revision of policy 04.31, authority to encumber and expend funds. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation of the approval of the policy 04.31. This is for the use of credit cards at the school, at the district and school level that must be authorized by the board. These are using the Fifth Third procurement cards. It does away with this general use of general credit cards, and it's the use of the Fifth Third procurement cards. This is a kind of a safety net for the district. It gives more control of when those cards go out with someone out. There has to be a purchase order approved prior to the use of these cards, so we know what the cards are being used for, and from there we can set the cards where they cannot be used for anything else but what's on the purchase order. So it's a safety net for the district, is what it is.
They can also, they can use a particular store
If they have,
card.
yes,
They
if they-
just
if
can't
the-
use a general Visa card. But
They
if they got a
can't.
Walmart card, Kroger card.
The schools can still use those for particular stores, but they can't have a general credit card.
Right. Questions, discussion, board members?
Is this first reading?
This would be a
First
policy,
reading.
which would be a first reading and require a second reading.
No, no.
Okay. Two things. Number one, I looked at the other districts to see what they had, and I had a hard time finding it. I finally got tired of looking out of 173 districts, so I commend Mrs. Ellis and her staff and you, Mr. Christie, for including this. I think it's good, sound fiscal management. Ms. Ellis, you'd shared with the board through email an idea of Fifth Third has a procurement card rules and agreement form. Is it your thought that this would be useful to include either as a procedure, or how might we include this? If that's your concept.
My intention, regardless of board approval, that when the card gets handed over to who it's issued to, they're going to read that and sign it, and I'm going to have it on file, and then it can be used in disciplinary action if they abuse the card, as far as evaluations and that sort of thing. But if you would like to adopt it as a formal procedure, that can be done as well, but it was going to be a financial department document, talking with other financial officers that have, you can see that one actually has the county's name on it, so that one is one of my people I communicate with a lot, that we bounce ideas off of each other, they would document their district.
As it is now, when they come in to use the credit card, there's a form similar that they fill out just to use, to check out to use the card, and then this would replace that.
Would it be helpful for this to be made a part of our procedures, and is
You
that something we
can,
can do with a
you
subsequent
can, but
meeting?
we're not
or
gonna let the card out till they sign it anyway, so it can be a part of the policy, or we can hand it out, either one. That's,
Since this was not, I don't think it was officially in the packet, perhaps again, this would be something that if you all think we ought to officially adopt this at a subsequent meeting as a procedure, we could incorporate that in. Is that a pretty reasonable way to go
I
forward?
didn't have the documentation in time for this meeting, I just received it yesterday, actually.
Other discussion, board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to consider approval of first reading of the revision of policy 04.31, authority to encumber and expend funds, sorry.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 10, consider approval of revised job description for School Fund Service Director 2.
request approval for the the job description as it's written. This is a job description that was given, it's sent to us because of changes in the requirements to hold that position that our job description does not reflect. This came from KDE. This is a reflection of what they're asking districts to do, and they're doing in other districts. This only changes a job description. There's nothing else associated with it. It does not affect anything else, just a job description.
Board member questions, inquiries?
And you mentioned you had a question on there was one, and in particular, as you scroll on down, I think it was other duties as,
Yeah,
it's worded a little different. They're starting to word them a little different in the job descriptions from the state, so probably as you see new job descriptions, that's the wording instead of other jobs or other duties as assigned by the superintendent. It'll say other related jobs.
yeah, in all
If
fairness
somewhere
to the
some
employee.
superintendent is abused, somebody asked them to do something that wasn't related to their job or something, I don't know, but.
I thought that seemed like a pretty reasonable change.
And I looked at the others that you looked at, and those were all, I think, this is the format that KD is sending us now, so this is probably what most of our new job descriptions will reflect.
Bill, I don't want to step on any comments you
No,
might
no
have in the
comments.
works. Then reviewing back to the current one, I guess really the only two suggestions is, this one has in knowledge and abilities reference to some financial and budget needs, but the other one had under a specific duty to oversee the preparation of the food service program, operating budget, control and limit expenditures, and analyze financial and operating statements. And it seemed like if I was reading it correctly, instead of that simply being in the incumbent's knowledge and ability, that actually, unless I'm misinterpreting what the intent is, that that be part of their duties. But if that's not your all's intent to have that be in their duty, then it certainly shouldn't be.
And when I looked at that, and I'm not seeing the whole thing in front of me now, I thought it was addressed in some others, the applicable district, state, and federal laws. I think that would incorporate the financial piece, the state and federal law rules, and regulations related to food service. I think that encumbers the handling of the money. And I'm not sure what your other one was. What was it?
It said, oversee the preparation of the food service program operating budget, control and limit expenditures, and analyze financial and operating statements. And that was a duty that was specified in the old thing, and the new one simply has under knowledge and abilities, budget preparation. So we currently, under the new proposed, it's an ability we want to have, people to have, but we're not saying that's part of their job duties to actually do that. And I wanted to just contrast that and make sure that was the intent.
I think the knowledge and abilities is all part of their duties, and to budget preparation, the budget preparation and control of that, I think that's all part of their, even though I think that's all an expectation of the position.
Federal and state law.
Scroll back down just, Chris, if you would, back the other direction. What's the title? Keep going. What's the title of that section right there?
The financial management. Was it the
Well,
financial
it's
management?
representative duties, and I'd have to go through there and look. I think when I looked at those things that you mentioned, when I went through the representative duties, I felt like they were covered in there.
There's actually a financial management.
There's a
one on there.
financial management
If you look
section.
through.
Keep going up.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
down.
Oh, is it, okay.
Keep going.
Go to page
Go.
2.
Is it your all's intention that the incumbent would oversee the preparation of the budget, the operating budget?
Yes,
Keep
within,
going down, Chris.
yes, within the,
Does it say that in there? And
well, within
My bifocal must have missed
the parameters of who they report to, that all falls under Director of Operations. That position falls under Director of Operations. So along with the Director of Operations, they prepare the budget. I think that's,
Paul,
yeah.
Mr. Christie, do you see under
Yeah.
financial where it says?
Implement efficient management techniques to ensure all records and supporting documentations are maintained in accordance with local, state, and federal laws and policies. And that's the financial management and all record keeping, I think it's covered there. And it even prepare, it also says in the next paragraph, prepare financial statements, operating reports, inventory, and cost control reports. I think that's all covered. In my opinion, that was all covered.
Okay. I just want to make sure
And
that
that's all
was
under-
fully considered.
This makes us legal, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of revised job description for school food service director 2.
And have a motion by Mr. Colby,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Ritchie is not in the room at this time, so should have gave her a cough drop too, I guess. Item number 11, consider approval of pay application number 15, Codell Construction Contractors and Suppliers for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium and Athletic Fields Project, BG 16-238, in the total amount of $870,000, $427.07. Mr. Christie,
Recommendation to pay application number 15, work completed.
any board member questions or comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 11 is written.
Motion by Mr. Colby, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heisler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's 4-0 again, unless you want to holler aye real quick. Okay, 5-0. Item number 12, consider approval of pay application 1514-27 to Rostron Architects for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium Athletic Fields Project, BG 16-238, in the amount of $9,316.11. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation for approval of pay application number 1514-27 for work completed.
Board member comments, questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Moved by Ms. Ritchie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 13, consider approval of change order 19-11 to Rising Sun for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium and Athletics Project, BG 16-238, in the amount of $8,041. Mr. Christie.
Recommendation of approval for change order 19-11 to Rising Sun. This is for the moving of the shot put, discus, and javelin throw area from a temporary location that was in your earlier drawings to where it's now being relocated in a permanent location. The permanent location now includes some additional concrete work that would not have been a part of the temporary location. And it also includes some grading, filling in a ditch work and doing some underground drainage work instead of above ground drainage work to level out the shot put throwing area, which I kind of liked it the other way. Going downhill, it gave us a tremendous advantage in shot put throw. But we're on level ground now, so we're back with everybody else.
Board member questions, comments, inquiries?
So the permanent location, is it going to be over by the field house?
The permanent location is between the softball field and out in the kind of the practice area outside the field house area. They're throwing onto that area there from the corner that's leveled in between there. It's taking away that drainage swell that was in there. The existing location was put out on the front corner out closer to the road on the stadium side, but the throw area, once we moved forward with the baseball and softball fields, then that put the shot or the discus and the javelin throw into the softball field area. So this is a permanent location, and it includes some more sidewalk area to get to it and some more concrete work around it.
Other discussion by board members? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve number 13 as written.
A motion by Ms. Richardson, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. Beat you out there. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Item number 14, consider approval of gym floor and bleacher colors for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletics Field Project, BG 16-238. Mr. Christie?
Recommendation, and he's getting ready to pull up the, I think there's some drawings of that. This has been discussed in previous meetings and/or work sessions, and that comes after meeting with all the coaches, athletic directors, even some of the booster organizations, administration from the schools. Comes as a recommendation. So, there you go. You'll see the floor, the gymnasium floor, and then you see the bleacher color selection as represented on that drawing. There, the black at the bottom with the letters of GRC block letters in there, and red being in the upper arenas.
And that's your recommendation, this?
Yes.
Okay, based on superintendent's recommendation, I'm going to move to approve the gym floor and bleacher colors for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletics Fields Project, BG 16-238, per the superintendent's recommendation.
No discussion?
We will, but right now we have a motion on the floor, so we need a second first.
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Richardson. Now discussion, please. Go ahead.
To respond to the public comments, I did put a post out on my personal school board page. I have a Facebook page, which is Scott Heisel School Board, and I utilize that to communicate to the public in terms of things I'm interested in. Last year, I put a post out there regarding...
Mr. Heisel, can we just go ahead and stay on task right here? So right now, we have a motion on the floor, and we would probably just need to hear your either approval of this motion or maybe your dissension from this motion. You know, I don't want to get into discussion with the public on why they made comments.
And so that poll I put up, I thought was very informational.
Again, your poll was unscientific, and we're not going to talk about the poll. We will talk about
Why can we not talk about the poll? It's, I was asking members of the public what their input was, because I wanted to be able to get that input so I can properly describe.
Mr. Attorney, this time, this is for debate on this issue, correct?
On this issue, as
If you
the
made a
issues that
poll,
you
it's
have,
your personal poll, you can use that information for you, but this is not for the board. It's for your information, not for the board's information. So at this time,
So the results of my research indicate that the existing side-facing head seems to be the predominant preference. After considering all factors, I've developed yet another design which is very similar to what we currently have in the existing auxiliary gym, which takes the cardinal head. It's a
I
little
think
bit,
at this time,
a little bit
too, we
smaller.
have a motion on
and,
the floor
it
that
does
you
a,
can debate the motion that's on the floor.
Okay.
And if there is a new one to come in, then I think at that time, am I correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
So right now, we are debating a motion that is on the floor.
All right, specific on that motion, I think it's premature because there's a lot of interest in alternate designs to make this decision right now, because it's certainly not needed in March to decide something about the floor of the gym.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? If not, I'll entertain, well, we have a motion out there at this time. We'll ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay?
Okay, 4-1. Item 14A, and I think I may have to steal yours just to read it off, unless, Arlene, do you have it? Did you write it down? If you have it down, if you write it down, if you'll read off 14A.
14A was, 14A was considered changing the design of the football field to include the Cardinal logo and other, the same thing that was on the basketball floor.
as well as to add the words, the letters GRC between the 20 and 30
Okay.
yard lines. I'll listen to you.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Just like high
Collins.
school.
I knew it was on the table.
We have,
Yeah, let me share real quick. This is the actual shop drawing we received from the turf manufacturer. So it has a little bit more clarity about the 3-foot white band around the field as far as out of bounds. Also expanding that white for the coach's box on either side of the field, along with the red for the player's box, okay? And this had the GRC. When we put the GRC in the center, we did remove the GRC from being the small between the 20 and 30. So if we'll go to the next image, what we do is bring in the cardinal head, and I kind of concur with the idea of putting the GRC back in, but we had not done that real quick for this image. We just translated and put the cardinal head in, the same logo image, a little larger for the field here based on the football field size, with it in the soccer 60-foot circle, that's there, in the center of the field. So, and we can get we had the original GRC, like you say, between the 20 and 30 as a smaller alphabet letters. Okay.
Mr. Christie, your recommendations on these from your discussions with others?
From discussions with, again, coaching staff, administrators, others that were brought into the booster organizations, others that met with us at the times that we discussed this, my recommendation would be to go with the logo as you see it there, with the addition of the GRC at the hash marks on one side facing the home stands and the GRC at the other hash mark on the opposite corner facing the visitor stands.
Board member discussion, inquiries or questions?
Did we ever figure out how we lost the cardinal head?
I don't know, but that's not up here right now.
Just curious.
So the only question, the comment I'd have would be on the smaller GRC facing the visitor side, wouldn't we want to keep those the same, or how does other teams do that? Do they face the visitors?
Yes, they face the visitors. We usually would do, like to the right, this is the home side to the bottom.
Where the cursor is about where one GRC would be.
Right.
Okay.
And then on the opposite corner, facing the other direction,
Between the 20 and 30 would be where the other.
that's,
Going to be turned toward the visitor
Turn to the
side.
visitors, right, so they can read that.
that's your all's decision, but
Yeah.
that's normally the way that
Okay.
they're
And that's the logo, the mascots between the 40s?
40 and the 40s.
40. Okay. So just as a reference point, if anyone's been to a football game at the old stadium, the Cardinal, it goes from the 40 to 40, so it's about the same, take the same length.
May I ask the board attorney a question?
Sure.
Mr. Attorney, because this item was put on as an add to the agenda, is this something we're able to make a decision on tonight, or have we given the public proper notice that this was going to be on the agenda and given them the opportunity to comment?
Well, the agenda is it's an open meeting, it's a regularly scheduled meeting. On a regular scheduled meeting, you could actually just have one item on there and amend those. It is only special call meetings that have restrictions that limit your discussions to those items that are on there. So as it relates to this particular matter, it was brought up in our policy, our board policy says that matters can be brought up the night of the meeting. It has to be dealt with as we would deal with a motion, and I believe in this particular case, it was his motion to modify the agenda under section 1 passed. So we would fall in compliance with both the open meetings rules and our own internal board policy that's been set by previous boards and adopted by this board. So you could vote on it tonight.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Were you done, Mr. Tom? This idea had been bannered about a while, so I wanted to take a look at what other schools are doing. Martin County has the very similar. They've got a cardinal head in the center, and of course U of L has the cardinal head in the center. Nelson County has the cardinal head in the center. And it was my thought that the GRC logo, which is incorporated in all the plans that we've had out there for a year, from my perspective, it added a unique character to our field that doesn't exist in the other schools that use the cardinal head. And I thought that was certainly worthy of consideration to differentiate us from other people from a branding standpoint, and I'm certainly concerned that we're going to have to spend almost $10,000 more to make that change at this late date.
I'd like to address that.
Sure.
So, as far as I know, and I've been to meetings before I was on the board, and now I'm on the board, I cannot find anywhere where the board agreed to the GRC logo. So, everything that was published had the mascot out there from the very beginning. So, I don't know where it changed, what happened. We came to find out as a board last week at our special meeting. That's how this came about. Luckily, we were able to, Mr. Christie was able to go and determine that they had not built the turf just yet and was able to make these changes. And if those changes, if the logo was approved as it should have been approved, that amount of money would have been the same a year ago as it is today. So we're not spending any extra money on something that we wouldn't have spent anyway.
So just to clarify, the extra $9,000 is not a change fee, but it's because there's additional red or coloring or whatever that's different.
There's a different
from the
yes,
green.
There's more welding of the seams together. There's more cutting and welding of the seams. It's a bigger. It's a bigger. I think what he was saying was, what he was saying was, if you had done this from the start, it would have been this price.
And time-wise, we're still okay to have that made?
We are
and
tonight.
Not, okay.
Other discussion or comments from board members? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 14A for the purpose to change the existing logo on football field from GRC to the Cardinal mascot, as well as to add the letters GRC between the 20 and 30-yard line on each side of the field, not to exceed $9,500.
We have a motion by Mr. Hawley,
Second.
have a second by Ms. Ritchie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either one.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
We have 4-1. Item number 15, discussion of and consider approval of setting the closing date of Clark County Schools and the George Rogers Park High School graduation date.
After meeting with administrators and staff, central office, cabinet, my recommendation to the board would be to set the last day of school for students to be Thursday, May the 30th. Make closing day for teachers Friday, May the 31st. And to set graduation for the senior class at 7 p.m. on Friday, May the 31st. And by doing so, that still gives you 173 days of class. That's still 90 hours above and beyond what any state requirements are for class time. So you're well beyond, I don't know what 6.5 hour day, what 90 hours equates out to, but you're that many days above. So that's my recommendation.
Based on recommendation from the superintendent, I move to approve the setting of the closing day of Clark County Schools and the graduation of George Rogers Park High School graduation date as presented by the superintendent. I have a motion on the floor. We would need a second.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Ritchie. This time we'll have discussion.
Rain date would be June 1st? If,
Yes.
Okay. That's Saturday?
On Saturday.
If Friday, okay.
With the Friday night graduation. Hope I'll make a better call than I did last year.
Always a good call.
It seemed like a good one at the time. It turned out to be a pretty night on Friday night.
How many, Mr. Christie, how many days were in the calendar previously?
176. And there's 170 required. This leaves us with 173 completed.
Other board members' discussion and inquiries? Not, I'll entertain a motion. Well, we do have a motion, I'm sorry. We'll take a vote. This time, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 4-1. Okay, items 16 through 31 Consent items, does anybody have any of those items that you want to discuss or pull off for individual?
I have two items that I just would like to discuss, but
Okay.
they don't necessarily, they don't need to be pulled off.
Okay, that's fine. What item would you like to?
Under item number 19, I just wanted to again thank Mr. Christie and his staff. They were able to achieve an $8,200 plus savings in the delivery of the textbooks that we purchased here a little while ago, and I think that's just particularly awesome whenever we could save money like that. And on item number 25, monthly energy report, I certainly, as a board member, would appreciate it if it's possible to share that in an Excel spreadsheet form, if that's in any way possible, because it makes it a lot easier to analyze.
Okay, we'll talk about that and to see, I mean, I think that's a possibility that we can talk about.
Thank you.
All right, also on item 19, I wanted to make a comment, and I reserved this comment for a couple of months, but I just want to brag on our schools for their attendance, and if I'm not mistaken, we might be the only school, and I think every school that touches us has been out for sickness. And we are one of the few schools that has not had a sick day now. Like I said, I've reserved this, and I hope I haven't jinxed us in a late flu, but, you know, I just want to say kudos to, you know, our nursing staff that, you know, that goes through that hand washing procedure with all the people, with our administrators, with our custodial people that keep these buildings clean, and I know go the extra mile to do it done, and also, you know, a little bit of bragging on the board. I mean, we have spent a lot of money on air handlers, being able to, you know, keep that fresh air going through there. So I think that, you know, right now it's looking like money well spent. And from talking to Mr. Christie today, he said our attendance was up almost 2 points from this time last year. And just to give you an idea, every percentage point that we go up raises us probably over $100,000 for each percentage point that we are ahead of last year. So basically, we're looking at funding of $200,000 additional dollars by doing that. So I want to say kudos to all those people in the building, classroom teachers also. Don't want to leave them out. Mr. Christie, I don't know if I've left anybody out in doing that, but I know it's been a concerted effort, and I think when you look around and you see the number of schools that have closed, and you know that we have not closed because of that, I think it's pretty phenomenal, and I do think there's a reason for it, and I appreciate what people have done for it.
Mention our bus transportation, even when we every time we pull a bus into the shop up there to do any kind of mechanical work, it goes through and we completely sanitize the bus with the pieces of equipment that you all purchased, allowed us to purchase here about some 4 months ago, the atomizers that does the disinfecting that we're using in all of our schools. We take we take 1 weekend a month where all of our custodial staff comes in, they work the weekend, and we disinfect every room in the building from 5 feet up on the walls down. In every building, every room, every desk, every cafeteria table, everywhere in the building.
And I don't want to leave parents out either, because they play a great part in doing this, and maybe even if it's keeping your child at home when they are sick. So I mean, those are all important things for our district here. But I do want to make sure I mention that, and I hope that I have not jinxed us. So at this time, I'll consider a motion for items 16 through 31.
Make a motion to approve items 16 through 31 as written.
We have a motion on the table. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 32, authorized payment of salaries and accounts payable.
So move.
Moved by Ms. Ritchie,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Talby. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I do want to ask board members, we need to look at a special meeting for the purpose of the evaluation. I don't know if you were able to get your evaluations back to me. I think I've received 3 so far, so if you have not, if you do not have it, find a way to do it, and depending on when we make this special meeting, how quickly I am going to need it. So, you know, we do have a spring break week coming up, the first week of April, I do believe, and so that leaves us with next week or the following, which the second week of April, I guess it would be, in there, and with a very good reminder that the NCAA tournament's played on Thursday and Friday nights. I'm okay with the NIT game.
How about next Tuesday? Is that too soon?
I mean, I'm fine as long as I get stuff in so I can compile the stuff and be ready. I'm good, and I think, basically it'll be, a closed session meeting for the majority of it there, I would think, and because we're going to go in and discuss the evaluations. Mr. Christie will come in, we'll discuss the evaluations, and then we'll come back out, and the only item that we have at this time on the agenda would be talking about superintendent contract. So I don't know if you want to try to make that an earlier meeting at 6 o'clock, or you want to try to just keep it at 6:30, or just tell me what your preference is.
I'm okay with Tuesday next week.
What is the date? Is that the
26th.
26th? Everybody good? We want to keep it at 6:30, or do you want to change? 6:30. 6:30, and Mr. Thomas probably wouldn't need you till the open session came, so if you just want to eat dinner somewhere and then show up around 7:30.
Bring by my dinner.
Yeah,
Bring by my dinner.
I'll just bring dinner. How's that?
All right. Okay, so we'll plan on that for next week, and we'll just get together and set that agenda and get that out as well. So at this time, we need a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Ritchie,
Second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All in favor, say aye.